We are kicking off our press briefing by a great event which happened in Lupane when there was the youth conference, the youth festival, which was chaired by our party president and the president of the Republic of Zimbabwe, President E.D. Mnangagwa, His Excellency. We were overwhelmed by the response of the youth of Zimbabwe from all districts to go as far as Lupane on the western side of Zimbabwe to attend this event. It's not near, Lupane is nowhere near. It's not even central in location. But the enthusiasm of the youth in going to Lupane was palpable. You could touch it. In fact, I'm told that some people were actually going when the event was almost closing because they were just so excited to be part of the youth festival, the youth conference in Lupane. I want to thank the Zanu PF Youth Wing for organizing such a magnificent event for the president, in particular the Politburo Secretary of Youth Affairs, Honorable Comrade Machakaire. He is, and Minister Kest Coventry, who is in government in charge of the event. They gave what was really a splash to the president on this occasion. There were two salient messages, among many others. The first one was an attack on the drug menace, which is now a big threat to the future prospects of the young people of Zimbabwe. We have always had a forward-looking and dynamic youth in this country. It has always been ready to take its responsibilities, even at tender age, throughout history. And when we reminisce about the 1960s and 70s, we've got to remember that it is young people from schools and from urban areas, from villages, aged between 12 and 22, who were the backbone of what became ZIPRA and Zanla armies. They took on the responsibility to die, to sacrifice in order for Zimbabwe to be free. The president highlighted the model, the template, which was shown by this particular generation, and invoked it for the youths of today to shun irresponsible behavior, particularly the escapism which goes with alcohol and drug abuse. This was the main highlight of his message. It may have arisen out of the 2 decades when our economy was in doldrums and decay, and the element of hope was being taken out of youth with unemployment high. And it has been worsened, of course, by the urban decay, which is symptomatic of CCC MDC councillor stewardship of urban towns for 2 decades. There has really been no effort at part of the city fathers in all the various jurisdictions which have been run by the MDC, CCC for the last 2 decades, yes, to create a sense of purpose about an urban area. An urban area is where goods and services are produced, manufactured, and delivered to the whole countryside, to the whole nation, because of the collection of people in the urban area in purposeful work for production of goods and services for the country. Unfortunately, never have we ever seen an urban, the city fathers of the MDC ever with a businessman. If you can give me a picture in 2 decades of any mayor of the CCC MDC with a renowned businessman, local or abroad, trying to put investment, trying to promote investment in a particular town, give it to me. I challenge you. Go into your picture libraries, all of you, and you bring me a picture of an urban councillor who are the city fathers who were running these urban areas for 2 decades, all of them, since the elections in 2000. There is none, none whatsoever. I want to remind you, businessmen come from abroad, they land at the airport. They skip all the MCCC leadership in towns to go and do investment, maybe in Selu for the ferrochrome plant, or other areas away from Harare, as if Harare has no need for these things. Because the businessmen can't find anybody who is welcoming them at the airport. I used to be foreign minister, deputy foreign minister. I don't ever remember one day when the airport protocol building, the airport protocol room for VIPs was ever booked by the CCC MDC to receive businessmen. It never happened. Now, everybody knows that for a country to develop, it needs capital. And the people who apply capital are called businessmen. If you don't have those in your sights for the development of a country, then forget it. Now, here's a study in contrast now. We have the Second Republic with President Idi Mnangagwa. Zimbabwe is open for business. Then we have an CCC MDC who don't care. The other day I was jokingly remarking, I said, the president is beginning to have ulcers in his fingers. Why? Because he's always holding a scissors, cutting a ribbon for a new project somewhere. Have you ever seen Samisa anywhere cutting a ribbon for any new project? No. He has got these incantations about God is with us, God with us, God is in us, God is in us. But even the Bible says God only helps those who help themselves. They don't want to even help themselves. So this, I'm describing this sense of negligence about urban management by the CCC as being the root cause as to why young people in urban areas are turning to drugs. Because city fathers are neglecting their responsibility to create a purposeful life for young people. And all they want is to blame Zanu PF. We are being stopped from working to deliver on goods and services by Zanu PF. I want to remind you, the budget of city of Harare is probably bigger than the budget of Malawi, a country. So they have the ability to collect funds. And they use that ability to collect funds. But where does it go? We are sleeping on pillows of garbage. Suddenly, because we are going to elections, the new mayor wants a task force. Because they are finally acknowledging that this was, in a backhanded manner, that it should have been their responsibility for 2 decades. We have garbage which stinks for 2 decades as our pillows in our houses in urban areas. Then you expect such people to go and run State House? Charity begins at home. If you want to prove that you are capable administrator of an urban city, do it. Then people of Zimbabwe will mark you to say, look at where he has run a city. This man can go and run the country well. Unfortunately, rather than the blame and tirades of anger against Zanu PF, there is not a single city of excellence which has been run by the MDC for 2 decades. That's why we have this hopelessness on the urban youth. And that's why the president now is saying that we should now have a task force to make sure that urban youths are taken away from the menace of drugs. We also feel that maybe there are darker forces who know of the creativity of the Zimbabwe people, who have tried many other things to make this nation fail, who now want to pump drugs into our youth. This is not new. China fought an opium war in the 1840s because the British imperialists were forcing opium on their people so that China can decay. It's a matter of record that all the inner cities of America are pumped with drugs and alcohol. And the male population of blacks in America, everybody has got a crime record on him. Probably 90% of males in America, black males in America, do have a crime record. Why? Because drugs are intentionally pumped into the inner city areas like Southside Chicago, where the blacks are. So it was proper that the president has said it's a national security issue. Take note. He said there's a drug menace. Number two, he's now saying it's a national security issue. And because we run one of the tightest national security apparatus in Africa, it's an apparatus which won a war. That's our national security. When it is invoked to be involved in a challenge, in a problem, we can be assured that there will be deliverables. So we are appealing to all Zimbabweans to help our national security apparatus support the police so that we can expose the drug dealers and those who may be harboring their distributors, and asking all the young people also to come forth to say who is supplying them with drugs, in addition to all the other drug recovery centers which we may have. So this was the salient message of the president. He is clearly warned that we may lose a generation because of the abuse of drugs. But he's not only shouting the warning, he is also doing everything to make sure that the youth feel that there is a purpose in life. I remind you again, in 2015, 2016, the war veterans, after our Mutsvangwa Congress, championed the legalization of the SME gold sector. Before it was illegal, Gondo Arisha Chikurubi would be given new tunics, they will be given new truncheons, they will be given new boots. Then dogs which were hungry for 2 weeks would be unleashed upon young people digging gold in the hills. And there will be programs of young people being arrested for digging gold. President Idi Mnangagwa, when he was vice president, joined hands with war veterans, and we prevailed upon the First Republic's president and his G40 wayward youths in cabinet. We legalized the SME gold sector, and the president has been nurturing that SME gold sector today to a level which you can't believe. And Zimbabwe has jumped from 3 tons in 2008 and being kicked out of the London bullion market because we couldn't meet the 10 tons which is required for maintaining a seat on the London bullion market. Today, we are at 34 tons, 3 times what is required to have a seat at the London bullion market. This is the achievement of the Second Republic. And who is doing the digging of the gold? 2/3 of it are coming through young people. If you want a classic example of giving young people a purpose in life, just start with the gold sector, the SME gold sector. Here is a president who says to the youth, Zema demonstration has been a mari, and diamoneta mari negotiate gold. Now we have young people who are making it on the global stage in Dubai. Some are even reach out to new markets in Hong Kong, in Shanghai, selling gold, the ultimate money. And remember, we are in a topsy-turvy world where after America weaponized its US dollar, everybody is rushing to the exits to run away from the US dollar. Because you can never be sure when it is your money. The Americans may just take it like they did Putin's money. So there is a palpable sense of insecurity in holding your savings and investments in US dollars. So gold as the money of ages, time immemorial, is becoming the fashionable means of storing wealth. That's why Mswatunya staged our inflation because Zimbabweans need an alternative to the US dollar to stay world. This is the President of the Republic looking at things which can make the life of youth change. We see a lot of mining projects which are creating wealth on an unprecedented scale. Lithium is coming up big, maybe it will be bigger than gold. And it is everywhere, and a lot of youths are involved. Now he is again busy, our president, rationalizing that industry so that it can create the same wealth as it has done for the SMEs. He is leaving no stone unturned to remove impediments for the successful exploitation of minerals by our young people so that they become rich, so that they have a purpose in life. So it's not just on the prevention side or on the national security side, but it is also, on the other hand, on giving incentives to make sure that young people do have a purpose. That's where things like Intwas from foods. We have now young people who read overnight over the internet. They have small plots. They buy drip lines from drip tech companies like they are buying chicken chips. They are setting plots in their farms, and we are finding Zimbabwean products which everybody loves on the global market in various supermarkets. It's a pleasure to walk into my supermarket and see berries from Zimbabwe. This is being done by young people of today. So the youth festival was important for two things. One, challenging the issue of drug abuse from a national security point of view, but secondly, as an advertisement of the many positive, productive projects and initiatives which can make the youth be taken away from drug so that they can inherit the mantra of those from an earlier generation who said, even if I die, I don't mind with my life as long as Zimbabwe will be successful. This is the tradition, this is the Zimbabwe youth which we know. And this youth, the most important thing was a man who was young at that particular time when we were beginning to create an army, decided to be one of the first recruits of that army, which would grow to probably 100,000, of which along the way 80,000 died. That is the whole population of Zimbabwe, and he's lucky to have survived. So he has got the whole institutional memory of that particular period. So he can recount, because he went through the treadmill of a youth which had a purpose in life. And that was the message which he was giving to the youth at Lupane. We are once again very grateful for the young people who came from all over the country to this event. We want to make sure that the event holds tight in their memories as a clarion call for youth to engage in the productive and purposeful life of the Second Republic under President E.D. Mnangagwa. We are also very much involved as a party in the self-verification exercise. I want to remind you, like I always, there is no country as structured and organized as Zimbabwe on the African continent. This is not about bragging. This is a matter of acknowledging our historical circumstances. There is no imperial power which was as menacing as the British Imperial Army, whose cat's paw was the Rhodesian Army in this country. Highly mobile, highly inventive in warfare, with a population which was in situ in Zimbabwe, not being dispatched like the Portuguese were doing in Mozambique from the imperial center London. The whites here said it's home. They fought tenaciously. They used every war subterfuge, like Seru Scouts. They used every weapon from Vietnam, from the American arsenal. But in the end, our population won. Why did they win? Because Wakomana and Amjiba, the war veterans, Waka organizer, we organized the population at village level. The giant of the Rhodesian army was made blind. It was like Goliath without eyes. We had the people as the David with eyes. So no matter you are a giant and you have no eyes, you don't see your enemy. In the meantime, the David with eyes open from the people's support, information and everything, could see the enemy. And we had the numbers. And that carried the day in 1979. So we are a structured party, historical, from the war. Respect that position. I say it with some angst, because there is another party which comes from nowhere, except sponsorship by the Americans. It morphs into a triple C, which says they don't have structures, they don't have a policy, they don't need a Congress, they don't need a program. We just run a party like that. How is it possible that human beings who work in an organized manner in society can be managed by a party which has none of those structures which makes people move forward? The reality, if I want to tell you, and I dare say so, is that Havana van. So if you try to call for a meeting, people may not turn up, then you are embarrassed. So they have an excuse now. We can't organize during the day because we are afraid of Zanu PF. So we have now hit upon a new creativity. And what is the creativity? They say we organize our meetings during the night when Zanu PF is asleep. So people who are supposed to go to work tomorrow, they are being made to wake up in the night by Triple C in order to be organized. How will they work tomorrow if they haven't? But anyway, I want to remind you also, because the Rhodesian enemy was very, very thorough. Those are the Pungwe. That's the Pungwe. Pungwe nde usiku nega. You understand? So we can always rise. In fact, we don't even have to rise. We are masters at organizing people in the dark. Isu, there's Zanu PF. We are the masters of that.
Yes.
Yeah. So if somebody was to try to move in that direction, vanototiwana takasvika kudhara ikoko kuorganize people in the dark. It's a fallacy. One, they are lying to themselves, but worse, they are lying to those who are sponsoring them. That because vatisiri kukuonai nemazimari atiri kukupai masikati. Muri kuisepi mari zvonzi aiwa tiri kuisenzesa usiku when their sponsors are not even asleep. So it's a lie. Somebody is playing a game of deceit between the opposition, and their detractors and their sponsors. I'm sorry for Mr. George Soros with his Open Society Institute of Southern Africa, which is the biggest funder of a plethora of NGOs and PVOs. Per capita, Zimbabwe has got NGOs and PVOs more than any other country in the world. This is the money from billionaire Soros. He is being milked dry by these people who are pretending to be running a party at night. There's nothing which they are going to do. And we in Zanu PF, we are busy putting the structures in place. We are verifying at village level. Remember, I told you, we are organizers from the war. It's a historical. Organization is the DNA of Zanu PF. Because we fought a war. And to win a war, you have to be organized. More so when you have to fight it against the most advanced European country, held by the most powerful country called America. You don't win Zedambi. This was scientific. So this is what we are doing throughout this week, confirming our structures at cell level. This is where the people who vote will be. We are relating each polling booth to the cell structure for our people. And we are engaging our cadres on the ground to make sure that those people who want to be registered are registered. I'll give you a typical example. I come from Marsh West. This is the original home of commercial agriculture for cash crops. Fodya yakaintroduced nevari kuVirginia palidiate ndopavane madhiriwora ekugredha fodya on the road to Kutama, uchibva muNorton. So all that area became a huge farming, tobacco farming area. We needed a cash crop as the colonial authority of the country. More so after the Second World War, when the British had to pay American debts for their support during the war. It was called the Lend-Lease. America supplied weapons to Britain, like they are doing to Ukraine right now, but they don't supply for free. You've got to pay. So after the war, the British had to pay, and they used Zimbabwe to pay for the loans which America had given them during the war. We were paying that loan for Britain until 2020, I think 2003. Zimbabwe was paying that loan. So a lot of commercial farms are in Mashonaland West for tobacco, for cotton, for this. It also meant that we had employees coming, migrant laborers from Malawi, from Mozambique, and from Zambia. So we have a very sizable, what we would have considered an alien population in colonial times. But we are Pan-Africanist revolutionaries. Soon after independence, all of them are made Zimbabwe citizens. So we don't have to fear the issue of xenophobia. Because in Zimbabwe, we can't distinguish a Malawian from a Zambian from any other Zimbabwean who is in here. We are all the same. I don't know, I can't even distinguish. I live into another country which can find a nuance between Africans, but we don't in Zimbabwe.
Yes.
So we made everybody a citizen. But there was a lag between citizenship and registration. And President Mnangagwa, in his wisdom, because he's a Democrat and a constitutionalist, he's a lawyer who believes so much in democracy, he made sure that those people are given a chance to register themselves by lowering the threshold of going to register. He announced that as long as you go to the registration center, you don't have to pay money. It's good for the country. If you know the statistics of your population, you can plan your economy much better. So you don't have to place an obstacle for somebody to go and register. So President Mnangagwa, in his wisdom, offered that big chance. So a lot of the Malawians who didn't have their papers, they all went to vote, to register in the national ID process. Now, yes, Mashonaland West is probably number 3 in terms of the people on the voter registration. But there's also a wide gap between the registered population and the vote register. So we are now working frantically to close the gap by making sure that these people who are given national registration cards are also on the registered vote. You remember, 2 days after the proclamation of the date of elections, anybody who registers afterwards cannot participate in the election. So you can see the agents with which we are going to the villages and all over the country to build cells. We are having a huge voter registration drive. And the results which are coming from our teams on the ground, they are surprising, pleasantly surprising. They are actually an indication of what will come out on the day of voting. We are not surmising the outcome of a vote. We are not organizing fake Gallup polls like the one which was done by the Brandis Foundation by BT to say this is the sample. A sample which is done from people who are on WhatsApp and the social media. Do you know that there are probably less than 300,000 people who are frequenting Twitter and all these mediums, the social mediums? So if you do a sample of those 300,000 people and you say it's a national sample, there's something wrong about your understanding of statistics. We have gone further to actually go to the village at cell level. That's where the people are. So our sampling is being done by actually registering those people. That's more scientific. Because the sample and the population have a relationship. You know what is a sample? It's a few who represent. And the population is the totality of those who are represented. That's statistics. So we are dealing with the statistical population. The MDC is dealing with the social media sample. It's a ghost one. And then out of it, they hit their chest. And they say, we are going to win the election. How many people? And incidentally, most of the people in Twitter, they could be algorithms, or they are in the diaspora. Are they going to fly in and vote on the day of the polling booth? Because it's polling station based. There is no polling booth in Berlin or in Washington or in London. The polling on Twitter. There is no polling booth. The last time I talked to Zek, they didn't tell me about putting a polling booth on Twitter. So you see, we have a problem of people who are not organizationally minded. That's why they think they can do a revolution like the other one who is in jail now. What's his name? Sikhala. They think a revolution is a dinner party. Thinks he can have a truck going to Chitungwiza there to Seke and ignite a revolution. You know, we are not hair-brained in Zanu PF. You know, brains of hairs. We are very thorough in what we do. So this is what we are doing. We are very happy with the outcome of our teams and the numbers which are responding to our voters' drive. We have deployed to the full. We have even bicycles all over the country, helping our cadres and our chairmen to mobilize people. Some candidates have even supplied motorbikes to make sure that the chairman of districts can move around canvassing for the vote, canvassing for the registration. This is what we are doing. We are putting together the ingredients, the elements of an emphatic victory come the elections later this year. This is where we are as a party. We are very much in contrast to the other party, which says that they are organizing people at night. How do they vote? How do you take them to the voter registration at night? I don't know. And where, you know, people cannot have children because they are disturbing their peace. You know, our population will be reduced. It's not. People need rest at night. So it's a laughable thing which is coming from the CCC. The truth is that so they put all sorts of lies in order to make sure that the spigot of money from George Soros is not turned off. He is their main sponsor. They do it through the US aid. They've been given a budget. I can bet that money is not even coming from the American Congress, because the Americans may be their public. We are not Ukraine where you just pump money for the sake of it. It's money from private entities who want to see regime change in Zimbabwe. And George Soros in particular thinks he's the latter-day Rhodes, Cecil John Rhodes. This country was not colonized by Britain. It was colonized by a company. So there's this infatuation by Western business people who think that they can again be another reincarnation of Cecil John Rhodes. And George Soros is one of them. And the Oppenheimers with their Brandeis Foundation, they think they can be another Cecil John Rhodes who run this country and do what they want. It won't happen. We fought, and we developed an army, and we organized the population to resist such kind of neo-imperial schemes. Never again will buccaneering private business interests raise an army in Kimberley and go across the border into Zimbabwe, across the Limpopo, and occupy this country and name the country under their own names, Rhodesia. It won't happen, even if the CCC wishes it so. We told you the problems of the organization. Everyone in CCC, and they go to an election. All of them wants to be president. The day the result comes that one has won the president, all the other ones are fighting. They are leaving the party or forming a splinter movement. You see what's happening now with the other MDC? Yeah. They are at each other's throats. That's exactly what Chamisa is fearing. What's happening to Monzora now is what Chamisa is afraid of if he goes for a Congress. because they will come up in fissures with everybody with a letter on his head. So this is the other element. They lie. Two, they fear organizational structures because they expose them to challenges, to democratic discourse, to democratic critique by others. So in order to they become a secret society, like the mafia. And I don't know how the people will vote for a mafia which they don't know, which is not in public appearance. Shadowy people. No, I've got sympathy for anything, but I don't have sympathy for the devil. This is them, this part. So that's our voter registration exercise. I didn't do my plan. There's been a lot of hana about the Delimitation Commission report. We are very happy that the President authorized its gazette. It came from ZEC. It went to Parliament. There was a lot of give and take along the process, but the President is being true, I told you, to the Constitution, and he has published it. It means that the date of the election is imminent. For those who are always prone to poke fun at Zimbabwe's democracy, here's an example. There are some who are in the courts about the Delimitation Court and the Commission. It's their right to be so, because we've got three arms of government: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. And to have all of them be seized with the Delimitation Commission report, it's a sign of the vibrance of the Zimbabwean democratic process. We moved away from bullet to office to ballot to office in 1979, even when we were on the verge of a military victory against the former army. Vietnam never did that. Frelimo at that time never did that. Angola, MPLA never did that. China never did that. Cuba never did that. Only Zimbabwe did that, to move from ballot to office. Quieten the guns, give the people a chance to vote, because you've worked so hard together with the people in the war, they can't fail you on an easier task to put an X on your support. That's why we had a landslide in 1979. It was a vindication and validation of the mobilization and the sacrifices which we make. So we don't brook lessons of democracy from anybody else. The National Endowment of Democracy in America, please leave us in peace, not in pieces. We are democratic because we fought for it, and we will grow our democratic processes in our own way because of our historical experience. And this contestation about the Delimitation report by various bodies of the Zimbabwean Constitution, it's a good thing. It means our democracy is live and pumping and thick and moving along. So we endorse the decision by our president. We stand by it. We also have no particular issue with all the other institutions of our republic which may be testing our constitution, because out of it we grow a strong democracy. So for those who have gone to the judiciary, it is their right. Let the judiciary ventilate the processes and come out with a position. Parliament did its work. It came out with a position, and the president has seen it fit to publish the Delimitation report. A thing of the measure of the vibrance of our democracy is that it looks like nobody is happy among the political parties. Is fully happy among the political parties. Is in Parliament. Both the MCCC and others are complaining, and on Zanu PF they are complaining. So maybe, it's good. That's how democracy should be, as long as the contest is done through the parameters of the constitution of the land. We do not want to prejudge those who have gone to the courts, because the matter is sub judice at the courts. So we will not comment about the merits or demerits, but the president has seen fit to abide by the Constitution and proceed to publish, to gazette the delimitation report. So it means for us, Zanu PF, we even work harder to make sure that we have the votes which will be required to take us home. Yes, I'm just being reminded. I've talked about this issue before. The PVO bill is out. There is a lot of gnashing of teeth. Who are those who are gnashing about the PVO bill? These phalanx of NGOs, all of them involved in Zimbabwean affairs. And most of them, if not 90% of them, they are dependent, they given Sakwa money by George Soros, the Open Society Institute of Southern Africa, which is part of his Open Society Institute International. He is a Hungarian billionaire who thinks it's his role to change the democracies of the world alone. So he goes from every country, and he has been very busy on Zimbabwe in particular. And who is his effigy, who is the person he admires most, is Cecil John Rhodes, I told you earlier on. Now, he is always interfering in our electoral processes. Crisis coalition Zimbabwe, because he wants to give the impression that Zimbabwe is permanently in crisis. How can a country be in 20 years of crisis when it is the most peaceable country on Africa? In this country, if you get knifed, it's actually used. In other countries, people get shot with guns. These are statistics. People being shot with guns. It's the most peaceable country. And the opposition in this country enjoys the protection of the police as much as those who are from the main party. When our police protect you in your areas, in your home areas, do you ever distinguish whether they are protecting you because you're MDC or CCC or Zanu PF? They do a neutral job. Yes. That's why Zimbabweans can go to work every morning and discharge their work without being disturbed by elements against law and order. This is the story of Zimbabwe. But we are now being told that we must be given referees of our democracy by PVOs and NGOs. I was the other day meeting an ambassador, a chargé d'affaires, who is, for the present time, the ambassador of the United States. They finally came to Chibuku House, the Americans, and they said that they are neutral in the next elections. And they raised this issue about PVOs. I retorted. I went to school in your country. I worked in your country. You gave me some of the best education. Americans, they are the most advanced country in education in many fields. When you are building your country in America, I saw bankers in Wall Street, fund managers in Wall Street, funding Apple, funding General Electric, funding all these major companies which make America the prowess of modernization. Never in America did I see an NGO being said it is the one which is building the economy of America. So if they are not building their economy, your economies in America, these NGOs, why do you think they get discharged that role in Zimbabwe today? The magoos of this country, they come from everywhere. What do they produce at the end of the day? They all drive in 4x4s. They go to a village with a giant SUV from Japan. They came out sauntering about how they want to change the people's lives. The goods which they have brought to help the people, they are lower than the tire of their SUV. That is goodies which they brought to the village. And that his words are talking about changing the lifestyle of the villages. And these goods are a pile which is lower than the tire of his SUVs. He's a liar, he's a charlatan. You can't even drive an SUV in your country because you can't afford it. But you can come and afford it in Zimbabwe because George Soros has sponsored you to interfere with the Zimbabwean politics. I am so glad, and I want to congratulate the president, and I wish he can have the strongest hand on and the most steadfast of fingers when the PVO comes to assent. He must put his signature there, a bold one, to tell them that we are sick and tired of PVOs. They are witches of the night. They've never developed their own countries. They have no business trying to develop the Zimbabwe. And they have no business trying to teach us about the democratic space in Zimbabwe, because the democratic space in Zimbabwe was earned by blood and sacrifice against the countries which are sponsoring them today. Who sponsors all the Why don't you have NGOs from Russia? Why don't you have NGOs from China? Why don't you have NGOs from Cuba? Why don't you have NGOs from India, these countries which were supporting us? Even democratic India. It doesn't have NGOs sauntering around in Zimbabwe, playing nonsense that they're trying to develop Zimbabwe. No. So why would the Western NGOs be entertained? So President Mnangagwa is dead right, and I've got my bottle of champagne cooling in the fridge. The day he sends that bill, I'll pop it up and celebrate, because we don't need those institutions. And most of them become very active towards the elections. But an election period is not the period to develop a country. All the time they are not. And our granaries are full of food. They are always saying that we feel a gap about food. Everybody has got food in Zimbabwe. They give figures, 5 million need food. The government supplies food to a correct number, maybe 3 million. 2 million are then supposed to be starving. Where are the graves of the starving 2 million, which the NGOs are talking about? So these figures are cooked up in order to justify their existence in Zimbabwe. Please go to America, go to England, and use your NGO expertise to develop England to come out of the fuel shortages because of the war in Russia and all those things. We don't have fuel shortages anymore in Zimbabwe anymore. Yes. Every corner has got a service station. So, you know, all the granaries are full. And now even the gods have been very kind. All the crops are dark green. Maize, wheat, maize, sorghum, everything is dark green. We are going to have a bumper harvest. So if your role is to fill a gap about where the government is missing in terms of economic development, if the government has filled up 100% of the gap with Intkwasa and Pumvudza and all that, where is your role? But the question I ask, why haven't you developed your country? And if you are as good as what you are saying about development, why are you not having a company in Wall Street, where the American entrepreneurs like Steve Jobs started from, or Bill Gates, or whoever, this young man who is doing Facebook? They should be like them. If they can come and show credentials, what's his name again, that young man from Facebook? Why don't they show their credentials that I did this in America to develop a company which was groomed to become a world player like Facebook? They have nothing except credentials of the American USAID mission in Harare. USAID mission. Okay, you say you want to help. In the last 4 months, 5 months, $700 million US. They've gone into mergers and acquisition about lithium. Go and see what's happening in Buhera today. Go and see what's happening in Menace.
Where I come from.
Where he comes from Buhera. I come from Mondoro, Menace. Go and see what's happening in other mining areas in Wange. Is there any NGO money in those projects? None. Because NGOs, they work on single-digit unit. They can give you 5,000, and then you use it corruptly to buy yourself another SUV as a Zimbabwean. And then they say you go to the village. By the time you go to the village, all you have money is to call young people to a drinking party at a bottle store and tell them that the government is evil. That's all they achieve. So the development of this country is being done by Zimbabweans using their own resources and attracting money from some of the best billionaires and competent businessmen of this world. That's what drives development. But we have Farai Magu, wanting to referee that. And he comes along with a packet full of beer and whiskey and this from a trip from America. Where have you brought an investor with you? None. Only your personal goodies. So we all have to sacrifice the country for the personal goodies of these front men for NGOs. No. If they say they are working, let them work and we see them paying taxes. Let's see where the people they employ. Factories where people are employed for goods and services. None of that they have. So how can you say you are working, we don't see your office? We don't see your employees. We don't see your tax returns. And you just say you are working. And why can't you go to the MDC and help them clean cities with the garbage? Because they are your people. They concentrate on Zanu PF. But everybody knows that there are potholes now. It's the rain time. All the rivers, all the towns, the streets are streams. Cars now need pedaling in order to travel, to move in the streets, like boats, because you can't use the engine, the wheels anymore, because the streets are streams. These people are the ones who maybe need some lessons from NGOs. But no, they don't go there. They go to say, we want to change the government of Zimbabwe. Change city governments, if you are being fair. Go to Jacob Mafume, who suddenly has woken up to say it is their job to try to clean garbage. Suddenly he has woken up to realize, and there's this sad incident which we condemn, where the police in Bulawayo, the city police, they shot people yesterday. Today, actually. Vendors were shot because they were quarreling with the city police. People are saying, you are collecting rates, but garbage is my pillow. You are collecting rates, but my car is drowning in rivers of streams of roads. You are collecting rates. There's no factory which your city is promoting. Your investor who is promoting. Marketplaces. You come there, you collect money every day, but there is no sign of what you are doing to improve the marketplace. It's haunted by the prospect of cholera and typhoid. These are the people who, if the NGOs had a conscience, they say charity begins at home. Go to your city fathers and tell them this. They don't go because all their focus is on State House. Why State House? Because they want their masters to be in charge of the resources of Zimbabwe, like Cecil John Rhodes was. Now we have taken over those resources. Nobody is going to take them away from us. Because the young people who are called SME miners, they will resist anybody else coming to remove them. Just like young tobacco farmers will resist anybody who try to remove them from the farms when we took over our resources. Yes. This is the battle. That's why we are so happy that the PVO bill is going to be signed. I've spoken a lot. Today I wanted more to have your questions than any other. And I'm ready for them.
In fact, I thought it is important for me to suggest to my colleagues, those burdening me with questions. I've seen Frank Shkore here. I've seen the others. I think almost everything has been responded clearly and vividly. I think there is nobody that has been left guessing on what our position is. Exactly as it was spoken by the spokesman, that's our position on issues. In fact, just to emphasize, the spokesperson said they don't produce anything, some of these NGOs. I would have wanted to know anyone who has gone to any one of the supermarkets and brought a product written, produced by Crisis Coalition or Human Rights in Ngofora.
Yeah.
Nothing. But we have seen so many of destruction and demonstrations, like what we saw, violent demonstrations that leaves property.
So their products is violence.
Violence.
Spawning violence. Well, there's another thing which the rising star and prestige of our president. When you do things well at home, it's inevitable that even those who are abroad begin to notice. Filling granaries with wheat is a single achievement at a very crucial time when wheat from Ukraine is not generally available because they're at war. They decided to fight with each other, brother against brother there, at the instigation of America. And when Africa is struggling to import wheat, which is not available because of the blockade in the war, and the damage to infrastructure in Ukraine, Zimbabwe comes from Norway, full granaries of wheat. So this has gone down. Yesterday there was a meeting of FAO, Food Agriculture Organization. They were aglow about what Zimbabwe has done in terms of the revamping and increase in agriculture production. This has earned our president kudos, first inside the country, because reducing food deficiency raises the level of prosperity. We are fighting poverty the practical way by making sure that people are food secure. Now, there's a meeting of billionaires in Senegal who are saying, because of the absence of Ukraine black soils in production of food, because of the war, and mind you, a war always has got ancillary aftermaths. There are so many mines which are being laid. Those who live in the border areas of this country, 40 years afterwards, you still are scared of losing a leg because of the mines which were laid by the Rhodesians during the war. Mines last well after the war. So even if tomorrow there is peace, there will still be need for time to clear all those mines before those areas can be productive again. So here's an opportunity for Africa, savannas, which have been used for cocoa, for cotton, for tea, for tobacco, to produce cereals and make Africa be food sufficient. Before, there was no investment for food sufficiency in Africa. No investment. That's why there was always hunger. And then we have NGOs who are formed overnight and become famous, and Africa is poor. I never forget the sight of a dying Ethiopian during the time of Bob Geldof and his move about African famine. He became famous for that, and that's what is on his biography, Bob Geldof of that. I think the group was called Boomtown Rats. He couldn't make man out of music, but he made man out of the hunger of Africans. You understand? But the hunger is still there, stalking Africa, but Bob Geldof made a fortune out of hunger in Africa. Now, we need to change that. And the conference is held in Senegal. Who is the guest speaker?
The president.
The president of the Republic of Zimbabwe. So the stature of a man who is doing his best to change his country is beginning to resonate abroad. And it is shrinking the space of detractors like Chamisa. He can't get any tickets to fly anywhere anymore. Under this rubric that I'm fighting for democracy, I'm fighting for this or this. There are no more invitations. His destinations of mischief are becoming constricted. Even those who like him, in America, they are embarrassed at probably inviting him. Instead, it is our foreign minister who is now getting invited to America. You see, there's no enduring reward in being treachery prone against your country. Because once you are treachery prone, it eventually catches up with you and people discard you. That's why we are hearing that the Americans are toying with a certain young man, I don't know his name, Chapman or something like that. Yeah, they say his face looks like Obama's because he's colored. Therefore, he can become an Obama for Zimbabwe. Not so much to replace President Emerson Damzo Mnangagwa, His Excellency the leader of Zanu PF. No, to replace Chamisa. So you get used. You are discarded like chewing gum. You chew and chew and chew. It ceases to be sweet. You get discarded. So the rival of Robert Chapman, what is his name? Robert Chapman is not from Zanu PF. No, it's from the M-Triple-C. This is the parties which are not homegrown. It means those who are your challengers are also not homegrown because both of you are not homegrown. So we laugh at that.
Yes.
This is why we're the authentic party. Our president's prestige keeps rising. You may know, 1997, we dispatched our army in order to protect the territorial integrity of the Congo when Rwanda and Uganda wanted to dismember the Congo. One of the reasons why we were on sanctions is because America on that time was on the side of Rwanda and Uganda to dismember the Congo. We said it's wrong. We sent our army and our men fought there. It's good that we are a very capable army. Only 900 managed to keep 10,000 Rwandese at bay, and we defeated them. We couldn't capture and keep them. So we said, please, we have captured them. Can you take them home in place? That was the deal in 1997. Guess what? The president is on his way to the RU in Addis Ababa. Where is he invited? To a Great Lakes summit where the issue of the integrity of the Congo is being debated. And the shoe is in the other leg. An American trusted ally, Kenya, has now been invited by America in the West to go and protect the integrity of the Congo from the Rwandese. When we tried to do it, we were sanctioned. Now they realize our wisdom, that we were right. So they asked Kenya to go and do exactly what they sanctioned us for in 1997. Kenya is doing a good job, trying to make sure that the Congo, an important African country, remains intact. And for change, America is now on the side of the integrity of African boundaries as established during the colonial era. Their policy has shifted. We don't shift because we are on principle. So now we are being invited and we say, we have indicated that what we did in 1997 was right. Because you know America exactly, you are asking Kenya exactly to do what you sanctioned us against, what you chided against. So, you see, this is always the beauty of being principled, because passage of time endorses you, that your decisions were right. And we thank the prestige and reputation of Zimbabwe, which our president is rendering as he discharges his job. It's a good thing. It's making waves at home. It's even making cyclones of pleasure abroad. Everybody is so happy about what Zimbabwe is achieving. Comrade Mnangagwa is doing a good job, both here and abroad. He's doing a good job with businessmen here. Every other corner now is a safe station, more cars. Every other place has got a chicken in, more. Every other, there's just so much frenetic economic activity going on in the country, not only the big scale, but also, so it's doing good at home. So when it comes to the elections, come the harmonized elections in 2023, if the vote tallies with his performance, don't be surprised. And if we whitewash a CCC party which claims to campaign in the middle of the night, don't be surprised, because there's nobody to campaign to in the middle of the night. I thank you.
Thank you very much, spokesperson, for that emphasis. May I just invite the spokesperson to make the announcement for tomorrow?
Yes. Tomorrow, the president will be meeting the Zanu PF parliamentary caucus in this building. Remember, we own the majority in parliament.
Two-thirds.
Two-thirds. We are determined that at the next election we will grow the two-thirds to three-quarters, if not more, by winning seats from urban areas which have been not run properly. So periodically, it's important for parliamentarians, as the emissaries of the party in parliament, to come and see their leader and exchange tactics and strategy, ideas and programs, more so as we go to the elections. So this is what is going on tomorrow. I don't want to preempt the agenda, but all parliamentarians will be here, and also the party leadership, the Politburo.
All of them.
All of them.
Invited.
They are invited to come and attend this meeting, because it is the Politburo which gives policy direction to our parliamentary football players who legislate for this country. So this is going to happen tomorrow in this building. It's a special announcement.
Yeah. And all members of the media are invited, of course, just to make sure that that invitation is conditional on the basis of the proceedings inside here. So those who have come to our Politburo meetings know what we do. So you're all welcome, but let's observe those regulations. I know there's a press briefing elsewhere from the side of government. May I just invite any brief questions from any of our colleagues who have burning issues?
I'm not president right now. So I can't venture into territory where I have no mandate to the constitutional mandate. No, it is his prerogative. And in the fullness of time, he shall make his position known. Be comforted that he has been ardently looking forward to this election. That's why his party machinery is so busy. We are almost in a frenetic drive to make sure that we collect as many votes as possible. It's a frantic and frenetic drive for voter membership. You know, I'm actually being phoned by my cell, back in my rural area, by my cell chairman, because even I belong to a cell. Everybody in Zanu PF belongs to a cell. So I answer to my cell chairman in my rural area. I want to confirm that your national registration certificate is still the same, you know, because they are so much, it's methodical and thorough what is going on. So I got calls to confirm that the register says, are you still Mutsvangwa? Are you, this is still your, this is what we are doing. We are thorough about, we are a scientific part.
Thank you very much,
we don't moonlight in our election canvassing. Others moonlight. We don't moonlight. We actually do it on the ground. So moonlighters, they shall bring moonlighted votes.
Thank you very much.
She wants to ask.
Oh, yes?
With the way you are smiling, I'm sure it will be a very positive question.
Yes.
Thanks for the smile. Zanu PF speaks with one voice. It is that of the president. And his echo chamber is here. It's me. We have no issues at all at party level. We aired them, views were aired in parliament. They were submitted to the president. They went back to ZEC. ZEC made the decision according to its constitutional mandate. And our president has proceeded to gazette the delimitation report. So we support what our president does. We have three arms, I mentioned to you, in this country: the judiciary, the legislature, and the executive. If other citizens have issues about the delimitation report, we can force them not to exercise their constitutional right or encourage them not to exercise their, it's not our business as a party. Our party's position is that of our president. But we have no issues with people going to the judiciary because it is their legal right, it is their statutory right, it is their constitutional right to do that. But they don't go there as Zanu PF members. They go there as citizens.
Very much well answered. The echo chambers are here and they are represented by the spokesperson. And the good thing and beauty about it is we have one at a time.
Yes. And I'm the only one for the time being. Don't try to give us other people as our spokesperson.
As ours.
I will jealously guard my position.
Any other question?
Thank you so much.
There being no other question, yes. The spokesperson will be inviting you for a special occasion. Once the relevant processes have been put in motion, we will be advising you very, very shortly before we proceed to the manifesto of the party. So just keep your fingers crossed about it. But otherwise, thank you very much for coming, and the spokesperson is very much indebted to you for this guest. We are hopeful our views will be represented as they were clearly spoken from the echo chamber, as I would want to say. Otherwise, thank you very much, Comrade Spokesperson.
Thank you so much, Derek. Thank you so much,
Cheers.
everyone.